Hello Spartans! Welcome to the last episode of this exciting mini-series. Today I'm going to share with you the last 10 tips, tricks and mindsets that you need to ace any interview. Let's go! Tip number 11. If you don't understand it, don't mention it. Stick to topics that you understand well. The worst thing that can happen to you is trying to answer a question by mentioning a technology that you barely understand or don't understand at all. This will only highlight your incompetence and may lead the interviewer to dig deeper. Interviewers usually want you to succeed, so why give them a reason to think otherwise? Tip number 12. Strike a good first impression. Make sure you are on time, or even early, and look presentable, whether you are interviewing in person or through a video call. If you are on a video call, make sure your environment is well lit and that your camera is angled at eye level or higher. Interviews with a laptop on your lap and looking down on the interviewer are a no-no. Tip number 13. Communication is key. Speak clearly and concisely and avoid rambling. Use vocal variety so you don't sound boring. Also, avoid speaking too quickly because the interviewer may struggle to understand you. And if they don't understand you, they will just assume that you don't know what you are talking about. Regarding voice tonality, there are 3 tones: neutral, report-seeking, and report-breaking. During interviews, you should only use the neutral or report-seeking. Neutral tone should be the one you use the most so you sound more professional. Report-seeking can be used if you feel that the interviewer is more laid-back and open. The way you communicate is usually more important than what is communicated. Poor communication will negatively impact the interviewer's perception of you, which will lead to a biased decision, meaning rejection. Tip number 14. Don't be boring. As with everyday social interactions, you want to strike a good balance between being boring and overly entertaining. Personally, I like to keep things light-hearted during interviews. I usually start with a bit of chit-chat and light humor to gauge the personality of the interviewer, which helps me decide whether to be more fun and relaxed or more pragmatic and to the point. In my experience, interviews tend to go much better when the interviewer and I are in a good mood. However, some interviewers are more serious and prefer to skip the pleasantries. If you are not sociable or struggle with small talk and humor, it's best to avoid trying to force these. A bad joke can really derail an interview, so be careful. Tip number 15. Tailor your responses to the role. If you are applying for a technical position, you need to have your fundamentals down, and detail is quite important. If you are applying for a leadership role, you should focus on the big picture and avoid unnecessary technical details. Also, make sure that your answers stay on topic. For example, if someone asks you how to harden an AWS environment, there is no need for you to ramble about your favorite EDR. Also, remember that your answers should be practical. For example, if someone asks you how to prevent vulnerability scans against your infrastructure, your first answer is most likely to block the IPs. While this may sound reasonable, in reality it's really easy for someone that is using a cloud provider to rotate IPs so that they can easily scan your infrastructure and always bypass your blacklists. Also, because cloud providers have pools of IPs that are shared across customers, you may actually block an IP that you consider malicious at a point, and later that IP is assigned to a legitimate customer, and out of a sudden you are blocking legitimate traffic. The bottom line is, always consider practicality and the business needs in your responses. Tip number 16. Prepare your sales pitch. One of the most common first questions you will hear from interviewers is, "Can you walk me through your CV?" This usually means that the interviewer didn't read your CV, but not necessarily. Regardless, this is a great opportunity for you to sell yourself. As I discussed in another video of this mini-series, your CV should be tailored to the position you are applying for, which makes this sales pitch easier. Avoid diving deep into technical details or over-explaining roles, tasks, and projects that don't align with the job you are applying for. You have to frame your pitch according to the message that you want to convey. If you are applying for a leadership role, highlight instances of leadership, teamwork, and strategy. For a technical role, focus on technical buzzwords, such as Kubernetes, AWS, clouds, Golang, automation, CI/CD, etc. What I suggest is that you start by summarizing your skills at a very high level. I have experience with cloud security and pen testing. This is your starting point. Then you can proceed to describe your current and past roles. You can also mention the reasons for the transitions between roles. As an example, you can say something like, I've realized that reverse engineering wasn't something that I wanted to do long term because it wasn't scalable, so I have decided to move to cloud security. Finally, wrap up your pitch by mentioning certifications and side projects. Tip number 17, keep a journal. Notion, OneNote, whatever works for you. Keep a journal of your interviews and if possible record them so you can review them later. This can help you pick up on details that were shared by the interviewer and that you may have missed, or spot issues with your communication, such as a boring voice or report-seeking tone. I may make a video at some point about journaling, but your journal should include key information like company name, how they reached out, the job description, potential interviewer questions and prepared answers, such as what are your salary expectations, and your own questions. By keeping a journal entry for each interview process, you are more likely to catch mistakes that are causing you to fail over and over again. You may also spot trends. For instance, you may notice that you always get rejected after the second interview. All of this data is going to help you refine your approach and improve your interviewing performance. Tip number 18, research and filter out bad companies. This tip goes hand in hand with tip number 8 from the previous video. But while that one is about impressing the interviewer, this one is about getting informed about salary ranges and work environment. You can also get a sense of the company's priorities by checking their job openings, for instance whether they are focused on tech or on sales. Knowing the salary range helps you prepare for negotiations, and doing your homework allows you to prepare good probing questions. Plus, if you notice bad reviews from employees about leadership and work environment, you might dodge a bullet. Tip number 19, follow up or not. I've never been a fan of cover letters or follow-up emails, because they are often a waste of time. Here is the deal, folks. If you are a strong candidate, you will either move to the next interview or stay in the interviewing pipeline. If you are not a strong candidate, it doesn't really matter either, because you are going to be rejected. Follow-up emails only really matter when the hiring team is on the fence and the other candidates are about the same level as you. In that case, an enthusiastic follow-up email or set of emails might actually give you a slight edge. Your focus should be on making a great impression during the actual interviews. Chasing the recruiter after the interviews may actually backfire. It might come off as desperate, which can hurt your position when it comes the time to negotiate salary or terms. Now, don't take me wrong, it's great to build a good relationship with the recruiter and everyone involved in the recruiting process. But the thing is that the opinion and the influence of a recruiter only goes so far. The people making the final decision are usually the technical team or managers, and their feedback holds the most weight because you are being hired for a specific role. The bottom line is follow up if you feel like it, but don't overdo it. And the final tip is use the S.T.A.R model. When it comes to answering behavioral interview questions, the S.T.A.R model comes in handy because it gives you a systematic way to answer without going off on tangents and digressing. The model breaks your responses into 4 parts: situation, task, action, and result. In my video of this mini-series, when I talk about how to prepare your CV, I mentioned the importance of being results-oriented. And this is where the result part comes into play. There are plenty of examples online showing you how to use this model, so feel free to explore and refine your approach for interviews. And that, Spartans, is the end of another award-winning mini-series on my channel. Nailing the interview process comes down to 3 main things: CV, where you describe your roles, side projects, online portfolio, and certifications, technical skills, and soft skills. Since a lot of you watching my channel are most likely beginners, the CV and technical skills are the most important, with soft skills being a bit less crucial. That said, soft skills are tricky because they show up throughout the entire interview process and can't be easily explained or summed up like technical skills. I know these videos probably left you with more questions, such as, what should I ask during interviews? But don't worry, we will dive into those in future videos, so stay tuned. Until next time, stay safe, stay paranoid.